All right, it's 13 minutes into the time in Zoom. We've been logged in for about 13 minutes, and we're just now hitting the record button. That's all right because everybody didn't need to hear the prior conversation, so that's all right too. But anywho, what we're doing is um we are live right now, getting ready to read episode 12 of the Book of Jasher. Now, if you all didn't catch yesterday's episode, let me tell you, you need to go catch yesterday's episode because it went down, okay? And if you thought it got hot yesterday, let me tell you, today's episode is about to get ratchet. All right. Now, I know y'all thinking, we talking about the Bible. How is it that you talking about something about to get ratchet? Baby, let me tell you something. The way Abram just got done talking to the king, baby, yeah, it's about to go down because the king is known for his hot temper. Yeah, honey. Yeah. And Abraham just went in on him. I would say Abraham had a drop the mic kind of moment. Okay. Let me tell you, he had a real like drop the mic kind of moment. So, therefore, that being said, Abram really, real deal, just put his life in danger with this one. But God's grace, I got a feeling God's grace obviously is about to show up for him because Abram lived on past even all of that. You know what I mean? And he had kids and everything else. Speaking of which, I can't wait to see what the book of Jasher has to say about when he had his son and everything like that. I honestly can't wait to see what it's going to talk about for that. But anyway, y'all, we are in chapter 12 in the book of Jasher. If you haven't already gotten a copy of this book, I advise you to please go get a copy of this book. This book is absolutely amazing. The Bible does talk about the book of Jasher. It talks about it in Joshua chapter 10, as well as First Samuel chapter 1. So I advise that you all will go ahead and go get a copy of this book. This book is absolutely amazing so that you can follow along with it. If you don't get a chance to follow along with it through getting your own copy, no worries. I do share my screen on every meeting so that you can see the words on the screen as we read. Now, I've been doing pretty good these past few days with scrolling along, but if I, happen to forget to scroll the page, please do forgive me. I'm not doing it on purpose. Now, let's uh let's go ahead and do a brief overview of what chapter 12 is going to entail on today. It says Abram is imprisoned, okay? And then after 10 days, he is condemned to be cast into a fiery furnace. His brother Haran is falsely accused and condemned to the same fate. Haran, whose heart is not right before the Lord, perishes. Abram is delivered and brought forth alive. He is presented with many gifts. The king dreams of Abram and again seeks his life. Abram flees to the house of Noah. All right, so it looks like we got a lot of drama taking place today, okay? We have a lot of drama taking place today, and just from what we heard in this overview, if your heart's not right, please don't think that you're going to probably be saved from the same fate of someone whose heart is right with the Lord. Trust and believe me, if the Lord had to make a choice, apparently he chose to save his child, honey. He chose to save the one whose heart was right with him. Now, if we all pay attention to see, if you read in the book of Genesis, we can all see why God was so faithful to Noah. I mean, not Noah, to Abram, because Abram was very faithful to God. Now, we ain't gonna jump that far ahead in the story, but just understand something. The relationship that God and Abram had was like, it was close, okay? It was a real close relationship, and Abram knew God and God knew Abram. Period. That's period. They knew each other. They was homies. They was friends. Now imagine being a friend of the king of all creation. You know what I mean? Like he is the creator of everything on earth, and y'all are homies. Come on now. That's top level kind of status right there. That's top tier status. Like you can't beat that. For you to say that you and God is friends, you cannot beat that. Period. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and pray before we get into this, and I'm just gonna thank God and honor God for just this opportunity today. Father God, in the name of Jesus Christ, I want to say thank you. Thank you that you're just allowing me to be able to come on here this morning and really just read your word. Lord, I pray this word sparks the interest of everyone who hears it and that they are completely engaged with this, okay? To the point where they want to not only order the book for themselves, but they want to indulge in the book, okay? This book is amazing, Father. I thank you for the author that wrote the words in this book, okay? I thank you for inspiring that person, whoever wrote it. I thank you for inspiring them to write this book, okay? This book is absolutely amazing, okay? It talks about all the details, okay? Like all the details. And I'm just, I'm just someone who just loves the details. I love the details, and you just, my Father, I just thank you. But Lord, I do thank you, and I pray that every individual who comes across this word, that you will open up their ears, their eyes, their hearts, their minds, and understanding, so that they may hear and also be able to perceive, or understand rather, and see and be able to perceive what they are hearing and seeing, oh God. Lord, I pray that it will draw people close to you, Lord, and I pray that your spirit will draw them near to you. Hallelujah, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. I ask that you would give me the words to say and the courage to say them all today, Lord God. Speak to me and through me. Let me not speak out of my own flesh, but according to your spirit and your will, oh Lord. Let your will be done and not my own. In Jesus' name I pray. Thank God and amen. All right. Man, God is just an awesome God, y'all. He is just so awesome. Now, we're in verse number 1, chapter 12, and it reads as follows. And when the king heard the words of Abram, he ordered him to be put into prison. And Abram was 10 days in prison. Now look at that. Abram went off on him yesterday, and he could have had him killed. You know what I mean? But instead of having him killed, he just put him in prison for right now. But I get a feeling, that anger is just going to be rekindled again, and he's going to try something else. And it says in verse 2, it says, and at the end of those 10 days, the king ordered that all the kings, princes, and governors of different provinces and the sages should come before him, and they sat before him. And Abram was still in the house of confinement. And the king said to, excuse me, I'm so sorry. And the king said to the princes and sages, have you heard what Abram, the son of Terah, has done to his father? Look, he called them together to gossip low key. Because look, how he start the conversation off with, have you heard what Abram, the son of Terah, done to his father? Like, he started a whole gossip group just that quick. But okay. It says, thus has he done to him, and I ordered him to be brought before me, and thus has he spoken. His heart did not misgive him, neither did he stir in my presence. And behold, now he is confined in prison. So look, he talking about, so this brother not only did what he did to his father, but I called him before me thinking maybe he'll humble himself before me. But no, homeboy didn't even humble himself before me. He had the nerve to say what he wanted to say to me. So I confined him. He said, and now that's where he at right now, locked up in my prison. I could tell that really made Nimrod feel some type of way, If that was a thing back in the day, that hey, I feel some type of way. Nimrod felt some type of way, honey. Let me tell you. Yeah, so anyway, verse 4.
Scroll it up. I can't see 4.
Sorry.
Okay.
Verse 4. And therefore decide what judgment is due to this man who reviled the king, who spoke and did all the things that you heard. So the king must have told him everything, must have told him everything that Abram said to him. And now he's like, yeah, so now what we gonna do to this homie? What we finna do to this brother? He done spoke like this to me. He ain't had no regard for me. So, he mad. Because he like, bro, I'm the king. What you doing? Like, what you on? But yeah, so verse 5, he said, and they all answered the king saying, now listen to what you call somebody who just coat riding. I call this coat riding. They just doing and saying things just because they want to be in the good graces of the king, you know? In other words, aka butt kissing. Okay. Here they go. And they all answered the king, saying, the man who revileth the king should be hanged upon a tree. But having done all the things that he said, and having despised our gods, he must therefore be burned to death. For this is the law in this matter. Girl, ain't nobody else, could nobody stand up for him. So you mean tell me, first of all, you mean tell me Terah, being his father, already knew that this would happen, you know, or something like it would happen, right? So you mean tell me he was that mad that he went and put his son's life in danger? But y'all thought that was something. Wait till we get to the later episodes. Terah just getting out of control, baby. I ain't gonna tell the story, but I'm gonna just say Terah just out of control. Okay, let me just say that he's out of control, honey. He told on his son Abraham because his son burned his gods up. I'm gonna leave that right there, and I'm gonna just when we get to that part, then I'm gonna tell you why I brought that up. Verse 6. Let's go down. Verse 6. If it pleaseth the king to do this, let him order his servants to kindle a fire both night and day in thy brick furnace, and then we will cast this man into it. And the king did so. And he commanded his servants that they should prepare a fire for 3 days and 3 nights in the king's furnace, that is in Casdim. And the king ordered them to take Abram from prison and bring him out to be burned. And all the king's servants, princes, lords, governors, and judges, and all the inhabitants of the land, about 900,000 men, stood opposite the furnace to see Abram. Now, all these people stood to see Abram get burned. Like, that tells you what kind of mindset these folks had. Because, first of all, why you want
Well,
to sit and
yeah.
watch somebody get burned?
I mean, because at that point they didn't really know about it. Like they thought like that was considered God to them. They didn't really know.
I'm saying, though,
It's
to
like
sit.
saying somebody disrespect like Jesus, and it's like, oh my goodness, because like in their head they thought like they was in the right, so they felt offended and they wanted to kill him,
Yeah,
but kill
yeah.
him. Yeah,
Yeah, I just, I don't know. I just feel like I ain't even talking about for the reason he was getting burned. I'm more so referring to the fact that all these men and everything stood around to watch him get burned. That's the part that I think is appalling to me. It's like, it ain't like he was
they
just going to
probably
get.
felt like it was an honor. Like, oh my gosh, it's an honor to watch this. Like, such, you know what I'm saying? Like, think back in the day. Like, oh
Ugh,
my gosh, it's the foul character. Like,
yeah.
why he said those things about our gods? He just disrespectful. He broke the, I don't know, the monuments or whatever, the statues. They probably feel really disrespected, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, let's make
Yeah.
an example. Like, let's sacrifice some type of thing. Let's stand around and watch. Like,
Right. Okay, so then verse 8 goes into saying, and all the women and little ones crowded upon the roofs and towers to see what was doing with Abram. And they all stood together. So they had the kids out there. That's crazy. So they gonna have the kids out there to see somebody die.
no, back in the day, like in the United States,
Mm-hmm.
when that used to take place, they used to
Yeah.
have like festivals and people had picnics and everything, and it was like a celebration.
Wait. So they used to watch us get hung on trees and stuff and be celebrating. I can't hear you.
And chop up the parts and sell it too. But they had pictures like styling. They had a whole family out.
Oh,
Like,
girl.
oh, it was something else.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, all right. So it says, and all the women and little ones crowded upon the roofs and towers to see what was doing with Abram. And they all stood together at a distance, and there was not a man left that did not come on that day to behold the scene. Now, this is something that I'm going to find very funny because, God already knew what he was about to do. So he let everybody come see it, baby. God got to do everything on a grandiose scale. He can't do nothing small, honey. He can't do absolutely nothing small. If you think about it, he really can't do nothing small. So this was all in God's perfect plan right here, honey. He was like, yes, bring everybody. Everybody got to come see this. Meanwhile, the enemy's like, yeah, everybody got to come see this, thinking he's about to kill Abram. But in reality, God is he's about to do something great. He's about to deliver Abram, just like he did the 3 Hebrew boys from out of the fiery furnace.
Yeah.
Let's continue to read. So y'all, real quick pause. If you haven't had a chance to like the video just yet, like the video, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. If you haven't already followed my channel, hit the like and the subscribe button for more of this juicy content. Okay. All right. Verse 9 says, and when Abram was come, the conjurers of the king and the sages saw Abram, and they cried out to the king, saying, O sovereign Lord. Sovereign is crazy. Okay. Surely this is the man whom we know to have been the child at whose birth the great star swallowed the 4 stars, which we declared to the king now 50 years since. Now, the fact that they remember that is insane. Okay. The fact that they remember that is insane. Yeah, but
He brought it to their memory though too.
no,
Like
he
he
brought
knew
that to
his
the king's memory. Remember?
well, yeah. I mean,
and,
they be
and, and they
gossiping.
didn't know this until they saw his face. I guess the boy
Yeah.
face ain't never changed that much. I guess Abram looked kind of like he looked it when he was a baby. Because they said when they saw Abram is when they said, wait, that's the same baby that was born 50 years ago. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, did you read that? It says, when Abram was come, the conjurers of the king and the sages saw Abram, okay? They saw him. And then they cried out to the king, saying, O sovereign Lord, surely this is the man whom we know to have been the child at whose birth the great star swallowed the 4 stars, which we declared to the king now 50 years since. So it isn't until they saw him that they realized that that's that same baby. Mm-hmm. In verse 10 says, and now, behold, his father has also transgressed thy look at that. Terah just got brought up into this. He said, now, behold, his father has also transgressed thy commands and mocked thee by bringing thee another child, which thou didst kill. You see, they brought the father into this too, baby. They brought the father into this too. They was like, wait, this his daddy fault. His daddy said that we killed this baby autumn years ago, but come to find out we didn't kill the baby. We killed somebody else baby apparently because that baby is right there. Woo, child, let me tell you when I tell you. But look, let me just keep reading because I ain't gonna spill the beans. I ain't gonna spill the beans. So it says in verse 11, let's go ahead and scroll y'all so y'all can see. In verse 11, it says, and when the king heard their words, he was exceedingly wroth. So you mean to tell me the king didn't realize that this was that same baby that was supposedly killed 50 years ago? He couldn't, he could not, it didn't cross his mind. Not one time, not once did it cross his mind that, it wasn't until they brought it up to his attention that he finally, I guess it made him realize, wait a minute, right, y'all did have this dream. And he is that person. Okay. It says, and when the king heard their words, he was exceedingly wroth. And he ordered Terah to be brought before him. Now, watch this. He ordered Terah to be brought before him, right? Now, we all just saw that. And we all know Terah is real snakish, honey. He don't care. He'll snake his own kids, baby. Listen, I ain't going to jump too far in the head, but just know Terah is trifling, okay? He is trifling. He the true definition of a trifling father, okay? Very trifling. So in verse 12, it says, And the king said, Hast thou heard what the conjurers have spoken? Now tell me truly, how didst thou? And if thou shalt speak truth, thou shalt be acquitted. Now he just told him, if you tell the truth, you should be acquitted. How come Terah still lied? How come he finna steal? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm telling him. But anyway, verse 13. And seeing that the king's anger was so much kindled, now look at this, it's a little scary behind. Ooh, child, listen. It says, Terah said to the king, My lord and king, thou hast heard the truth, and what the sages have spoken is right. And the king said, How couldst thou do this thing, to transgress my orders and to give me a child that thou didst not beget, and to take value for him? And Terah answered the king, Because my tender feelings were excited for my son at that time. And I took a son of my handmaid, and I brought him to the king. And the king said, Who advised thee to this? Tell me, do not hide aught from me, and then thou shalt not die. And Terah was greatly terrified in the king's presence. And he said to the king, It was Abram, my eldest son, who advised me to this. And Abram was in those days that Abram was born 32 years old. Shut your mouth and keep talking. So he threw his own son under the bus, baby. Under the bus. Do you hear me? Do you hear me? Like how he lied to save Abram's life. You mean tell me you couldn't figure out another lie? Because, wait, did his
Does
son...
he want to be honest? Like all of a sudden.
Right. Like he want to be real honest now. It's just ridiculous. That was verse 16. Verse 17 right here. Now all of a sudden he want to be super honest. Bro couldn't tell. Nah, he couldn't sacrifice another handmaid or a servant or something. What did Abram ever do to him? For real, what did Abram ever do to this brother? For real. But anyway, look like you ain't have to been a did nothing to this brother. And he just did him all the way in. So anyway, now verse 17 says, But Abram did not advise his father to do anything. Woo-hoo!
Oh, so he lied.
Yes, he lied on his son, girl. He couldn't find nobody else to lie on. He had to lie on his son. Wait. Like I said, the definition of a trifling father. Do you hear me? He lied on his son to save his own butt.
Well, yeah. I don't
Girl,
know how it was back in those days. I'm just gonna take the story for what it is.
that
Like
is
these people are
insane.
long gone.
Who, child,
But
that's
that had to be
insane.
a crazy time to be alive.
I'm trying to tell you where literally this brother lied on his own son to save his own butt. That's crazy. It says, But Haman did not advise his father to do anything. For Terah said this to the king in order to deliver his soul from the king, for he feared greatly. And the king said to Terah, Haman thy son, who advised thee to this, shall die through fire with Abram. For the sentence of death is upon him for having rebelled against the king's desire in doing this thing. And Haman at that time felt inclined to follow the ways of Abram. Girl, oh, now this makes sense. Now this makes sense because he was considering following the ways of his brother Abram. And it says, but he kept it within himself. Oh man. Wow. And it says, And Abram said in his heart, Behold, now the king has seized Abram on account of these things which Abram did. And it shall come to pass that if Abram prevail over the king, I will follow him. But if the king prevail, I will go after the king. Also, his heart wasn't right. He didn't make a decision. Now that explains why he died. Now, if he would have made an actual decision to follow his brother, then he probably would have lived. But because his heart was like the heart of the one that Jesus talked about, he
What,
says,
one?
yeah, like basically that, but like he can't make a decision. He expect to receive nothing from God. You know what I'm talking about? Like a double-minded man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was double-minded in that sense. He couldn't decide if he wanted to follow the God that Abraham followed or if he wanted to follow the God that the king followed. or whatever. So that's why he wasn't delivered. Lord, I pray that man was saved though. I pray he got a chance. I doubt it though, because he didn't even have faith. Never mind. But anyway, so 20 says, and when Terah had spoken this to the king concerning Abram his son, the king ordered Abram to be seized with Abram. And they brought them both, Abram and Abram his brother, to cast them into the fire, and all the inhabitants of the land, and the king's servant and princes, and all the women of the little ones were there, standing that day over them. I ain't gonna lie, if I was Abram, I'd have been like, bro, at this point, I'm gonna start talking. No, I didn't do any of that. My father just lied on me. He lied to y'all. He did that on his own. I ain't had nothing to do with it. Like, I'd have been having to talk like, oh, you lied on me, bro. Let me tell the truth on you. No, we ain't had nothing to do with that. Didn't nobody else know what was going on. He the only one that knew. And by the time we found out, he was giving his handmaid's baby over to y'all. Period. Period. But anyway, yeah, maybe that's just me because that's how it would have went down with me. Like, no, we ain't do that. 22. It says, and the king's servants took Abram and his brother, and they stripped them of all their clothes, excepting their lower garments, which were upon them. Now, how embarrassing is that? To be stripped basically naked, to get thrown into a fiery furnace. It's crazy. It says, and they bound their hands and feet in linen cords, and the servants of the king lifted them up and cast them both into the furnace. And the Lord loved Abram, and he had compassion over him. And the Lord came down and delivered Abram from the fire, and he was not burned. Period. But all the cords with which they bound him were burned, while Abram remained and walked about in the fire. And Haran died when they had cast him into the fire, and he was burned to ashes, for his heart was not perfect with the Lord. And those men who cast him into the fire, the flame of the fire spread over them, and they were burned, and 12 men of them died. Wow. Oh, I'm sorry. Verse 27. And Abram walked in the midst of the fire 3 days and 3 nights. Girl, shut up. Like how Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. And Jesus was under the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. Girl.
Hold
Girl.
on, he was under the earth.
Well,
Jesus
you
was
remember
under the earth for
he
three
went to the
days.
belly of the earth, the heart of the earth. He went because he had to go first down when he died to take the keys of hell from Satan, keys of death. Remember?
Oh, what verse? What book? I don't remember.
You
Matthew.
remember when Jesus died? They said he first had to descend before he ascended. When he died, he didn't go to heaven, girl. He had to go down to take the captives and set them free.
Okay, so that's probably in Matthew or something.
Yeah, it's in the Gospels, girl. It talks about it in the Gospels.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I just didn't know.
Yeah, the son, like Jesus himself even said, he said the Son of Man, the Son of Man had to go first. Because matter of fact, remember when they said that generation will not seek a sign, they seek a sign, but the only sign they're gonna get is the sign of Jonah. When Jonah spent 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the fish, so will the Son of Man spend 3 days and 3 nights in the what do you say, the heart of the earth or something? What do you say? Um
I'm not for sure about that one. I know Jonah.
Yeah,
Is it
Jesus used
Jonas?
Jonah as an example to
Yeah,
talk about what
Jonah.
he had to do.
Oh, okay. I probably just missed it.
Yeah, you can look it up on your time or whatever. Just look it up and you'll see what I'm talking about. And then you'll be like, oh, that's what she was saying. Yeah. But see, just like how they did it, Abram had to walk around in the fiery furnace for 3 days and 3 nights. And it says, and all the servants of the king saw him walking in the fire. And they came and told the king, saying, behold, we have seen Abram walking about in the midst of the fire, and even the lower garments which are upon him are not burned. But the cord with him, with which he was burned is with but the cord with which he was bound is burned. And when the king heard their words, his heart fainted, and he would not believe them. So he sent other faithful princes to see this matter. And they went and saw it and told it to the king. And the king rose to go and see it. And he saw Abram walking to and fro in the midst of the fire. And he saw Abram's body burned, and the king wondered greatly. And the king ordered Abram to be taken out from the fire, and his servants approached to take him out, and they could not, for the fire was round about the was hold up for the fire. Verse 29. And the king ordered Abram to be taken out from the fire, and his servants approached to take him out, and they could not, for the fire was round about, and the flame ascending toward them from the furnace. And the king's servant fled from it, and the king rebuked them, saying, make haste and bring Abram out of the fire, that you shall not die. Now look at how trifling that is. He tell them basically go get burned so that you don't die. Yeah. Oh, that man is trifling, boy. He ain't gonna do it himself. He gonna tell somebody else go do it. He said, "Go and get yourself burned real quick, so you don't die," knowing that it's very well possible that they can die anyway. But that's crazy. Anyway, moving along. Verse 31 says, "And the servants of the king again approached to bring Abram out." Right? And the flames came upon them and burned their faces, so that 8 of them died. Now, would you look at that? 8 of them died anyway. Verse 32.
Oh, dang.
Mm-hmm. Verse 32 it says, and when the king saw that his servants could not approach the fire, lest they should be burned, the king called to Abram, O servant of God, who is in heaven, go forth from amidst the fire and come hither before me. And Abram hearkened to the voice of the king, and he went forth from the fire and came and stood before the king. Shut your mouth and keep talking. Baby, Abram came out. He was just waiting on that king to say, come on up out of there. I ain't gonna lie. If I saw that I was still alive, I ain't gonna lie. I probably would have just walked out. Like, yeah. Thanks, Lord, for saving me. Now let me just get up out of here because it's getting hot. For real. That's crazy. And then verse 33 says, and when Abram came out, the king and all his servants saw Abram coming before the king with his lower garments upon him, for they were not burned, but the cord with which he was bound was burned. Now imagine, Abram had to sit there and witness his brother be burned to death, like a burnt offering. He had to literally sit there and watch his brother be burned. We don't never stop to think about that. Like, how Abraham must have felt to see his brother in the furnace with him, but his brother succumbed to the flames. His brother turned into a pile of ashes right before his face. That's that's a hard situation. That's a hard pill to swallow there. You look right at your brother turn into ashes. Verse 34. And the king said to Abram, how is it that thou was not burned in the fire? And then, Abraham, Abram, he said to the king, the God of heaven and earth, in whom I trust, and whom has all, hold up, and who has all in his power, he delivered me from the fire into which thou did cast me. Woo, chap. And then verse 36, he said, and Haran, the brother of Abram, was burned to ashes. They sought for his body, and they found it consumed. And Haran was 82 years old when he died in the fire of Casdim. It says, and the king, princes, and inhabitants of the land, seeing that Abram was delivered from the fire, they came and bowed down to Abram. Verse 38. It says, and Abram said to them, do not bow down to me, but bow down to the God of the world who made you, and serve him, and go in his ways. For it is he who delivered me from out of this fire. And it is he who created the souls and spirits of all men, and formed man in his mother's womb, and brought him forth into the world. And it is he who will deliver those who trust in him from all pain. Verse 39. And this thing seemed very wonderful in the eyes of the king and the princes, and Abram was saved from the fire, and that Abram was burned. And the king gave Abram many presents, and he gave him 200. Gave him his two head servants from the king's house. The name of one was Oni, and the name of the other was Eleazar. Eleazar. I'm thinking that's Eleazar. But I'm sorry, all yeah, you can still see that. It says, and all the kings, princes, and servants gave Abram many gifts of silver and gold and pearl. And the king and his princes sent him away, and he went in peace. Verse 41. It says, and Abram went forth from the king in peace, and many of the king's servants followed him, and about 300 men joined him. Hey, all right now. And Abram returned on that day and went to his father's house, and he and the men that followed him and Abram served the Lord his God all the days of his life, and he walked in his ways and followed his law. And from that day forward, Abram inclined the hearts of the sons of men to serve the Lord. And at that time, Nahor and Abram took unto themselves wives, the daughters of their brother Haran. The wife of Nahor was Milcah, and the name of Abram's wife was Sarai. And Sarai, wife of Abram, was barren, and she had no offspring in those days. And oh, can you still see? Nope.
Mm-mm.
45. All right. And at the expiration of 2 years from Abram's going out of the fire, that is in the 52nd year of his life, behold, King Nimrod sat in Babel upon the throne, and the king fell asleep and dreamed that he was standing with his troops and hosts in a valley opposite the king's furnace. Wow. And he lifted up his eyes and saw a man in the likeness of Abram coming forth from the furnace, and that he came and stood before the king with his drawn sword, and then sprang to the king with his sword. When the king fled from the man, he was afraid. And while he was running, the man threw an egg upon the king's head, and the egg became a great river. Girl, shit, you know what? The egg became a great river. That sounds like the story that happened when Moses delivered the children of Israel. And the Pharaoh tried to come after the children of Israel, and the waters overtook them. But anyway, verse 47. And the king dreamed that all his troops sank in that river and died. Girl, shit. Okay. Okay, let me keep going. It says, and the king took flight with 3 men who were before him, and he escaped. Verse 48. And the king looked at these men, and they were clothed in princely dresses as the garments of kings, and had the appearance and majesty of kings. Wow. Verse 49. And while they were running, the river again turned to an egg before the king, and there came forth from the egg a young bird, which came before the king, and flew at his head, and plucked out the king's eyes. The king's eye. I'm sorry. Oh, Jesus, what kind of dream was this brother having? Number 50. And the king was grieved at the sight, and he awoke out of his sleep, and his spirit was agitated, and he felt a great terror. So because he had a dream, girl, this talk about you talk about somebody just being crazy. This brother had a dream. Okay. I could just already see where this is about to go. Cause he had a dream. Woo, he sound like one of them jealous wives. I had a dream you cheated on me. And now she mad at the man. You know, we got some family members that actually did that before to their men. They stabbed them because they
No,
said
I
you cheated on
remember.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it can be your intuition. Sometimes you be like, you can't. I don't know. You be knowing.
Yeah, but that particular one, he ain't did nothing. that girl just was, you know, them, they was just a little on the off side. It was a little off, but it's okay. But anyway, so verse 51, I'm sorry, said, and in the morning the king rose from his couch in fear, and he ordered all the wise men and magicians to come before him, and the king related his dream to them. Oh, Lord, here they go. Here they go. Verse 52. It says, and a wise servant of the king, whose name was Anuki. That name by itself is
Sound
crazy.
familiar.
Huh?
I said that sounds familiar, like a god or something. A Nuki, a not. I
Yeah,
don't
that,
know. I
that
think I
name
heard
by
that name
itself is
before.
absolutely insane. That name is crazy.
I'm gonna look it up.
But anywho, so yeah, it says, and a wise servant of the king, whose name was Anuki, answered the king, saying, this is nothing else but the evil. Girl, look, he said, this is nothing else but the evil of Abram and his seed, which will spring up against my Lord and King in the latter days. Girl, I told you this sounded like when Pharaoh got drowned, right? You remember? Or his troops got drowned in the river because they were trying to chase after the children of Israel. And it just
Yeah.
said that the seed of Abram in the latter days, this is something that was going to happen in the latter days. You see that?
Oh yeah.
Is not the children of Israel a seed of Abraham? did, not, did not Moses come from the seed of Abraham? Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So anyway, 53, it says, and behold, the day will come when Abram and his seed and the children of his household will war with my king, and they will smite all the king's host and his troops. And as to what thou hast said concerning 3 men, which thou didst see like unto thyself, and which did escape, this means that only thou wilt escape with 3 kings from the kings of the earth, who will be with thee in battle. It says, and that which thou sawest of the river, which turned to an egg, as at first the young bird plucking out thine eye, this means, let me see, can you see? No, you cannot. I'm sorry. Verse 55. And the young bird plucking out thine eye. This means nothing else but the seed of Abram, which will slay the king in latter days. Verse 56. This is my king's dream, and this is its interpretation. And the dream is true, and the interpretation which thy servant has given thee is right. Girl, let me guess now. Now the king mad. He mad all over again. He ain't even
Probably
realize.
so.
Huh?
I said most likely, yeah.
Yeah, he mad all over again now. He ain't even thinking like, bro, he not directly talking about you. This ain't got nothing to do with you. Cause don't you realize how old you is already? You think you really gonna be alive by the time this happens? Like, come on, like let's be for real. Let's really be for real about this. You gonna probably be long gone and dead, which he was. He was long gone and dead. It says, now therefore, my king, surely thou knowest that it is now 52 years since thy sages saw this at the birth of Abram. And if my king will suffer Abram to live in the earth, it will be to the injury of my lord and king. And all the days that Abram liveth, neither thou nor thy kingdom will be established. For this was known formerly at his birth. And why will not my king slay him, that his evil may be kept from thee in latter days? And Nimrod hearkened to the voice of Anuki, and he sent some of his servants in secret to go and seize Abram and bring him before the king to suffer death. And Eleazar, Abram's servant, whom the king had given him, was at that time in the presence of the king. And he heard what Anuki had advised the king and what the king had said to cause Abram's death. And Eleazar said to Abram, hasten, rise up and save thy soul, that thou mayest not die through the hands of the king. And thus for thus did he see in a dream concerning thee, and thus did Anuki interpret it, and thus also did Anuki advise the king concerning thee. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Eleazar, and Abram hastened and ran for safety to the house of Noah and his son Shem. And he concealed himself there and found a place of safety. And the king's servant came to Abram's house to seek him, but they could not find him. And they searched throughout the country, and he was not to be found. And they went and searched in every direction, and he was not to be met. And when the king's servant could not find Abram, they returned to the king, but the king's anger against Abram was stilled, as they did not find him. It says, and the king drove from his mind this matter concerning Abram. So I guess he said, out of sight, out of mind. Now that you're not here in my
Probably
territory.
so.
Yeah, he said, now you're not here in my territory. We good to go. So it says in verse 63,
You
and
gotta
Abram,
can you
huh?
scroll up? Well, I
Oh, I'm
can't
sorry.
see the
I'm
okay.
sorry. I love the fact that Eleazar, went and told Abram all of this, because baby, he could have sat right there, heard it. Boy, when I tell you it's true, God will have some people sitting and listening to people in high places for your behalf, on your behalf, honey. Do you hear me? Because Eleazar was there solely on the behalf of Abram, baby, because Abram couldn't have heard none of that, you know what I'm saying, and was able
No,
to be
that's true.
saved. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? And that brother hurry up, and I'm so glad they didn't think about the fact that Eleazar went and told it to Abram, because
I
that
think
brother
that
would have been,
happened.
huh?
Oh no, you go ahead. I was gonna add to it, but
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think it was either First Samuel's or Second Samuel's. I think Saul, he let his pride and everything overtake him, and he wanted to kill David. I guess he got jealous of David, but somebody had overheard Saul like his intentions, and then he told David, and it kind of like helped to spare his life. So I kind of felt like that's kind of similar
Yeah, I believe that
with the
happened on two
whole
different
Abram.
that
Yeah.
happened on two different occasions. One time his daughter Michael, she warned David, and also another time David's own son Jonathan
Oh
warned
yeah,
David.
his son. Yep.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, God is good, baby. He'll set some people up to hear on your behalf what the plan of the enemy is, so that they can come back and tell you, and you will be delivered. That's why it's important to always sometimes pay attention, because people don't be just always talking crazy, and see, what if Abram would have thought at that time, boy, you being crazy. You know what I mean? Me and Nimrod and got a good understanding after what went down in the fiery furnace. What if he wouldn't have
Right.
listened? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, so verse 63 says, and Abram was concealed in Noah's house for 1 month until the king had forgotten this matter. But Abram was still afraid of the king, and Terah came to see Abram his son secretly in the house of Noah. And Terah was very great in the eyes of the king. Girl, I wouldn't have trusted my dad. I ain't gonna even lie to you. Like, nigga, you can't come see me. Nah, we good. Nah, I ain't gonna even lie. I would have been like, bro, we good. You can't come see me. Nah. Mm-mm. You might go back and tell the king where you saw me at. Mm-mm.
I mean, but Abram, he's still, yeah, you
Huh?
gotta honor your parents. I said, but he's still like God is protecting him.
Uh-huh.
So regardless, yeah.
Well, you got a good point there, yeah, because he definitely was protected. So I guess Abram said, "I ain't worried about you, boy. You do what you do, and God gonna still do what He gonna do."
Probably so. Yeah.
And then it says in 64, and Abram said to his father, "Doest thou not know that the king thinketh to slay me and to annihilate my name from the earth by the advice of his wicked counselors?" Verse 65. It says, "Now whom hast thou here, and what hast thou in this land? Arise, let us go together to the land of Canaan, that we may be delivered from his hand, lest thou perish also through him in the latter days." Wait, who talking? Oh, Abraham said that to his father. Oh, okay, okay. Cause I'm like, wait a minute. Duh, I said, and Abram said to his father. Okay, all right. So then in verse 66, it says, "Doest thou not know, or hast thou not heard, that it is not through love that Nimrod giveth thee all this honor, but it is only for his benefit that he bestoweth all this good upon thee?" Verse 67. "And if he do unto thee greater good than this, surely these are only vanities of the world. For wealth and riches cannot avail in the day of wrath and anger." Verse 68. "Now therefore hearken to my voice, and let us arise and go to the land of Canaan, out of the reach of injury from Nimrod, and serve thou the Lord who created thee in the earth, and it will be well with thee, and cast away all the vain things which thou pursuest." Verse 69. "And Abram ceased to speak when Noah and his son Shem answered Terah, saying, True is the word which Abram hath said unto thee." Verse 70. "And Terah hearkened to the voice of his son Abram, and Terah did all that Abram said. For this was from the Lord, that the king should not cause Abram's death." Period. So look, in the end, it looked like Terah ended up following the Lord himself. So that's good to know. That's good to know. And that there, my friends, conclude the episode 12 of the Book of Jasher. Okay. Oh, I'm giving it away. Let me go down some. Tomorrow's episode is 13, chapter 13. And it looked like we got a full outline ahead of us on tomorrow as well. And we might even get a chance to, I don't know, I said might because from the looks of, yeah, we might get a chance to read chapter 14 as well. So 13 and 14 tomorrow, hopefully. No, not
On
tomorrow.
a Sunday?
Monday morning. Monday morning. I forgot today was Saturday. But yeah, Monday we might actually get a chance to read um 13 and 14. So I'm looking forward to that, you all. Look, if you haven't had a chance to already hit the like button, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And if you feel so led to do so, hit the share button so that somebody else can get a chance to encounter this wonderful and amazing book of Jasher, the story of, you know, this holy book of Jasher that is again mentioned in Joshua chapter 10 as well as First Samuel chapter 1. Okay. And I just want you all to know that I appreciate you all for sticking through, listening to the reading of chapter 12. And if you've been following this whole time, just the reading of the book of Jasher in general, whether this is your first time or your, or the fact that you've been following this faithfully. I just appreciate it so much. And I just pray that the Lord will draw you closer to him and that it will cause you to seek after his word a whole lot more. In the name of Jesus Christ, I just want to say thank you all for continuing to look and watch. You all have a great rest of your day. Have a great rest of your day. Let's see here. Now, here we go again. Me not knowing how to. Ah, here it is.